also told that in Genesis that human beings were created in the image and likeness of God, and that is a symbolic language, metaphorical language, meaning that we have been endowed with certain gifts and charisms that come from God.
There is something unique about our relationship with God, and so I balance that tension between seeing myself as one of God's children and seeing myself as one of God's children who has a responsibility for using my knowledge, reason, and skill for the betterment of everything God has made.
It's within reason to imagine that God, having a clear vision and a clear understanding, is still at work with us, constantly touching our lives, constantly involved in everyday things. If you look at the biblical witness, you see that in the history of the people of Israel. You see that in history as God is speaking through the prophets, as God is acting in the miraculous, as God enters human history in a unique and special way in the person of Jesus, as God calls the church into existence and sends the church out to proclaim God's continued existence in the world and God's evolving creative act in the world and humanity's evolving response to what God is doing.
You can see that in how the cosmic order has changed and how life has evolved. That is a testament to God's continuing creation.
We talk in theology about the difference between creatio et nihilo, the creation out of nothingness, generally at the beginning of time, and creatio continua, the idea of continuous creation. For me, God being greater than time and creating time, I see it as one eternal act of creation, which isn't separated into two pieces and yet pervades our life from beginning to end.
What is meant by the new creation? Christians believe that something profound happened in the moment of Easter, that creation was perfected. I've often pointed to baptismal fonts in church and asked the children to count how many sides a traditional baptismal font has, and they announce 8. And I remind them because baptism and Easter are the 8th day of creation, when God completed the creation that God had begun in Genesis.
Does life really end at death? And that is the ultimate Christian hope and mystery that we look forward to in that new creation.
The mysteries of theology, things like the Trinity, that we contemplate and yet do not feel we have achieved full understanding. The mysteries of the sacraments, that we participate in the grace of God even when our mind is not up to the task of understanding how that works. And certainly the mystery of the church, which is this wonderful, messy process of getting along with one another. I see all of those as ways that we live into the new creation. We don't know exactly where we're going. We don't know exactly where we are. We cannot comprehend fully, and yet we experience that grace.
God is in our future, and that all of creation is being drawn forward in time because we are being drawn to a future where God is. It's as if God is the great attractor, the great love that is bringing us constantly, speedily into God's presence. There's something about the Easter moment when this begins in earnest. But the process from Easter on is that experience of drawing ever, ever closer to God. It's a very progressive vision of what happens in the cosmos, that we have a purpose, there is an end to us, and there is a reason that we are moving in the way we are.